Museum people indeed. Apologies to my French viewers. And we're looking at, very quickly, at the evolution of German army. So we have here Panzer II. Now this was intended really only as a training vehicle, but in 1939 and 1940 it was still very common, and it actually was used extensively, even into the early parts of World War II. Armed with a 20mm cannon and fairly thin armour. This is actually a House C, which is the oldest surviving example. Moving on, we come on to the Panzer III. Now the Panzer III is your first real attempt to have a medium tank. Now this is a fairly late version. You can tell because it's got extra armour added to the front. Initial versions were only 37mm gun, which was the standard German gun of war. They did go up to, as yet, 5cm gun. And in some of the later versions, they actually had a 7.5 short barrel howitzer. So you can see, size-wise, quite jumpy. But this was intended as your main battle tank. Moving on, we come to the Mark IV. Now Mark IV, in many ways, is a scaled-up Mark III. Initially, it was armed with a short 75mm gun, and the intention was the Mark III was the main tank, and the Mark IV was a support tank. And what this would do is it would basically provide the high explosive firepower. As the war went on, the gun was changed to a long 75, which was much more effective at becoming technical. And that was why the short barrel guns went on to the Mark IIIs. Now it's got a very interesting feature if we come around the side. What was happening? Lots of vehicles were being destroyed by anti-tank rifles, and the Russians were heavily using them. So what we have here is what's called Schutzen. And the idea with this is, originally this would have been solid plate, like you have at the top. But what then happened was, it was discovered that this was really good against bazooka rounds, Piat rounds. And what would happen is the mesh would catch the round and detonate it short of the armour. And this is a lot lighter than sheet steel. So the end result was, they went for this mesh effect. And you will still see that in use today, with even more advanced versions. Now a good way to tell apart the Marks III and IV is do a quick count of the road wheels. If you count the number of the large wheels, the road wheels, and divide by 2, that will tell you what mark you've got. And you can also count the return rollers, which is a bit harder to see on this. The Panzer III has 3, Panzer IV has 4. That's just coincidence, that wasn't actually planned. So moving over to this side, this was the last attempt at a standard German tank of World War II. And it's a Panther, Panzerkampfwagen 5. This time, we've still got a 75mm gun, but it's much longer. This is intended as a tank caliber. Now, a lot of the wheels are different. We've gone from the small wheels to these interleaved ones, which is really good for ground pressure, but is a real problem when you get snow and ice stuck in there and you're trying to get out of the Russian front. Or, alternatively, if I want to fix that wheel, I can take that wheel off and that wheel off. Not good. Now the Panther initially was thought of by Allied intelligence as a heavy tank. However, it was actually intended as a standard tank. And again, you can see we've got the Schutzen, this time it's solid, and if you look quite close up on it, what you'll see, it's got a paste on it. Now that is Zimmerit, and the idea behind Zimmerit is what it will do, it will stop someone coming up and banging a magnetic mine on the side. Really good technology, except the only people who really use magnetic mines were the Germans. So it was a bit of a waste. And there are different patterns of it. Usually they're called waffle, and the other one has gone blank, and it's a more straight line. This is quite an unusual pattern. I've never seen it quite like this before. But you can see there, we've got that. And if we just move around to the front of the vehicle, you'll get a good look at the sheer length of the gun. Now, even though that's still a 75mm gun, it is L70. That means it's 70 times as long as it is wide, whereas the Mark IV had a 43 or a 48. What it means is it pushes the round out a lot faster, making it much more effective. So those were the standard German tanks of the war. There were others, particularly captured Czech models. But if we look over to that side, we'll see the alternative, which is the Tiger II. This was the heavy tank. And the idea behind a heavy tank is what that does, it's not there to be your main tank. That was originally designed to break through. That's going to push through the enemy lines. And then your other tanks will follow. So those are the different German tanks that were common during the war. And hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight into the evolution of the German tank.